The world of global trade is a complex and ever-changing dance. Alliances shift, partnerships are tested, and sometimes the music stops altogether. Recently, the U.S., under the Trump administration, has engaged in a high-stakes tariff tango with its North American neighbors, Mexico and Canada. This trade drama began with the imposition of hefty tariffs on imports from both countries. Then, in a surprising turn, the U.S. offered a partial reprieve, exempting some goods from these tariffs. This sudden shift has left many observers puzzled, wondering about the motives behind these policy swings and their potential long-term consequences. This essay delves into the intricate details of Trump's tariff tango, examining the timeline of events, the reactions from key players, and the economic implications of this trade standoff. We'll explore the potential motivations behind the U.S.'s actions and analyze the broader impact on the global trade landscape. Finally, we'll consider what this tariff tango reveals about the future of U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade relations and the challenges that lie ahead. To understand the current state of this trade drama, we need to rewind to early March 2025. The Trump administration, known for its protectionist stance, made a bold move. They slapped a 25% tariff on a wide range of goods imported from Mexico and Canada. This decision sent shockwaves through the global market. It signaled a potential escalation of trade tensions between the U.S. and its North American neighbors. However, the story took an unexpected turn in mid-March. The U.S. announced a partial rollback of these tariffs, offering exemptions to certain industries and products. Car makers, a vital part of the North American supply chain, were among the first to receive a reprieve. This was followed by an expansion of exemptions to include other goods, such as televisions, air conditioners, and even avocados. While this partial reversal seemed to signal a de-escalation of the trade conflict, it left many questions unanswered. Mexico, a country with deep economic ties to the U.S., found itself caught in the crosshairs of this tariff tango. The initial imposition of tariffs sparked concerns about potential economic fallout. The Mexican government, led by President Sheinbaum, was quick to express its concern, emphasizing the importance of continued cooperation and dialogue. Despite the initial anxiety, Mexico welcomed the subsequent exemptions offered by the U.S. President Sheinbaum expressed gratitude for the reprieve, highlighting Mexico's ongoing efforts to address issues such as fentanyl trafficking and gun control, areas of shared concern with the U.S. However, the fact remains that a significant portion of Mexican exports to the U.S. still faces potential tariffs. This uncertainty continues to cast a shadow over the Mexican economy and its future prospects. Canada, like Mexico, shares a long history of economic entanglement with the U.S. The two countries are deeply integrated through trade agreements and supply chains. The imposition of tariffs by the U.S., therefore, triggered a cautious response from the Canadian government. Prime Minister Trudeau, while acknowledging the challenging situation, emphasized the need for a negotiated solution. He reportedly had a heated phone call with President Trump, underscoring the seriousness of the issue. Canada's finance minister, exercising restraint, held off on immediate retaliatory tariffs, choosing instead to pursue diplomatic channels. However, not all Canadian officials shared this measured approach. Ontario Premier Ford, a vocal critic of Trump's trade policies, announced plans to impose a 25% tariff on electricity exports to the U.S., a move that could further complicate the trade dynamics between the two countries. Section 5, The Dragon in the Room, China's Retaliation and the Bigger Picture. While the U.S. was engaged in a tariff tango with its North American neighbors, another global power entered the fray. China, already embroiled in a trade war with the U.S., seized the opportunity to make its presence felt. In a move widely seen as a warning to both Canada and Mexico, China announced retaliatory tariffs on a range of Canadian goods, including canola, pork, and seafood. These tariffs, some as high as 100%, were imposed in response to Canada's earlier decision to impose tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, steel, and aluminum. China's actions highlight the interconnected nature of global trade, where disputes between two countries can have ripple effects across the world. It also underscores the challenges faced by countries like Canada and Mexico as they navigate the complexities of their relationships with both the U.S. and China. Section 6. Economic shockwaves. The tariff tango's impact on markets and trade. The tariff tango initiated by the US has not been without its economic consequences. The initial announcement of tariffs sent shockwaves through the stock market, with the S&P 500 plummeting by nearly 1.8%. This sudden dip reflects the uncertainty and anxiety that grip investors when confronted with the specter of a trade war. The trade deficit, a key indicator of economic health, also widened significantly. In January 2025, the U.S. trade deficit ballooned to over $130 billion, an increase of 34%. This surge is partly attributed to businesses stockpiling goods in anticipation of future tariffs, a phenomenon that distorts trade flows and creates artificial demand. Economists warn that these tariffs could lead to higher prices for consumers, reduced economic growth, and job losses in all three countries, further fueling uncertainty and volatility in the global market. Section 7. Winners and Losers: The Economic Fallout of Trump's Tariff Policy. The imposition and subsequent partial reversal of tariffs have created a mixed bag of winners and losers. Some industries, like U.S. steel and aluminum manufacturers, have benefited from the protection afforded by tariffs. These industries argue that tariffs are necessary to shield them from what they perceive as unfair competition from foreign companies. However, many other sectors have felt the sting of these tariffs. U.S. businesses that rely on imported goods from Mexico and Canada have seen their costs rise, cutting into their profits and forcing them to raise prices for consumers. The agricultural industry in particular has been hit hard, as tariffs have disrupted established supply chains and reduced demand for their products. Section 8. The Art of the Deal, or a Policy in Flux: Deciphering Trump's Trade Strategy. The Trump administration's approach to trade has been characterized by its unpredictability. The recent tariff tango with Mexico and Canada is a prime example of this. The initial imposition of tariffs, followed by partial exemptions, has left many observers wondering about the underlying strategy driving these policy swings. Some analysts argue that these tariffs are a negotiating tactic, a way for the U.S. to extract concessions from its trading partners. They point to the fact that the exemptions were granted after Mexico and Canada agreed to certain demands, such as increased cooperation on security issues. Others, however, view these policy shifts as evidence of a lack of a coherent trade strategy. They argue that the administration's actions are driven more by impulse than by careful calculation, creating uncertainty and instability in the global trading system. Section 9. The Road Ahead: Navigating the Future of U.S.-Mexico-Canada Trade Relations. The tariff tango has undoubtedly strained relations between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. While the partial exemptions have provided some breathing room, the underlying tensions remain. The future of U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade relations hinges on a number of factors. One crucial factor is the outcome of ongoing negotiations between the three countries. These negotiations aim to address a range of trade-related issues, including rules of origin, labor standards, and dispute settlement mechanisms. The success or failure of these negotiations will have a significant impact on the future of North American trade. Another factor is the broader geopolitical landscape. The ongoing trade war between the U.S. and China, coupled with rising protectionist sentiments globally, creates a challenging environment for international cooperation and trade.